Welcome back, everyone. Now we have Salvadore Poe, and he's going to be speaking about a very direct way of knowing who you really are. He'll point directly to your whole self or no self and who you truly are, your true nature. And I've seen him on some calls and videos, and he's absolutely amazing because he's very, he goes directly to the point. And I've also read his book here, which is Blown Wide Open. It's his new book, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's also a collection of holidays, and it is about your true nature and what it means to be one's true nature and how to kind of realize what we already are. So he's pointing to that in a very beautiful, simple, but profound way. So welcome to you, Salvadore Poe. And yeah, I'll let you take over. And maybe you can start with talking about blown wide open. What does that actually mean?
Hi, Susan. Thank you, first of all. Blown wide open. Well, as you said, my work is only about helping people come to see for themselves their own free, essential nature now, not as something to attain in the future. So all of my work is about that. And so blown wide open is just a few words that I sometimes use to help people to recognize something. So our normal condition, and there's nothing wrong with it, but our normal condition is a very contracted, self-focused condition where all of our attention is on self and the illusory world that's created in our mind. And we've come to believe since we were born, well, since we were, not since we came out of the womb, but since we took a first birth of self, however old we were, maybe a few months old or something, we've come to believe that that's who we are. This limited form of body and mind, self-contracted form, a very personalized world, very small, very limited. And we go through our entire life believing that we're limited to that. So in my work, what I try to do is turn the attention away from all of that so that you can recognize something here and now that's essential or fundamental to all of that, which is your true essential being of freedom, which has never changed your whole life. It's been there since before you came out of the womb, but certainly since you've come out of the womb, who you have been is what I say, not contracted. Contraction is just a movement in time and space, a contraction, a movement of contraction in time and space. And then it's become a belief that that's who I am. What I do is I shift 180 degrees so that you stop looking in that contracted condition and start recognizing yourself as what I can sometimes say, blown wide open, not contracted at all, with no center actually. There's no center here. Who you are is not centered or located in a body. It is who you are is completely open, not located. All of these words are limited, but so I use those words, blown wide open, after I help people recognize something here and now that you are, and then you see for yourself, hey, wow, I'm not who I thought I was. I'm not contracted in this body, mind, organism. In fact, I am ubiquitous. I simply am what is, openly so. And so that's how I use those words, blown wide open. There's a means. Anything I say is only a means for recognition. The words themselves are not important. They don't mean anything. I don't care about words. I only use words as a means for recognition because it's the recognition that counts, not the words.
Okay, and is that something that's something we've always been blown wide open, and is it something we'll always be? And why if that's what we actually are, why do we overlook it, or why do we not really realize that.
We have always been who we are. We've always been this. So what I share is nothing new. You're not coming to gain anything. You're not attaining freedom or attaining enlightenment or attaining liberation. You're coming to recognize what's already true, is that who you are is already free. You're already blown wide open. That's who you are, essentially. Because of a mistake, or what's called original sin, the original mistake, original sin means the original mistaken identity. You, who you are, blown wide open, have come to believe through this original sin, mistake, that I am, because I am this small, limited, contracted state of consciousness. It doesn't make it true, essentially. It just makes it what you believe. And it's completely natural and it's completely normal for everyone. If there are any exceptions, I don't know of any. We've all come out of the womb completely blown wide open. If you could just imagine, you can't maybe remember, but if you can imagine how when you came out of the womb, there was no self-identification, was there? And the reason there was no self-identification is because when you came out of the womb, mind was completely empty. There was no data yet implanted in the mind. There was only emptiness, there was only openness, there was only essential being, nature, consciousness itself. And then after a few months, some data starts getting programmed in the mind. And in India, this is called samskaras, mental impressions. The first one is I. The first very impression is I am. That impression comes because your mother tells you your name, and I am Sal, you good baby, and all this. And after a few months, you start, you who you are, make a mistake and say, oh, I am. And that I am is the birth of self. So once that I am happens, then all of the other things get added onto it. I am a boy, I am Sal, I am this, I am American, I am all of the things. And all of the experiences of life that happen get put onto this original I am feeling. And so then very quickly, you make the mistake and start believing that those samskaras, that data in your mind, that information is who you are. Like, I am an American, for example. Most people believe that's actually who they are, an American, or whatever it could be, or a boy, or a man, or their name. Those are very gross levels, but there's much more subtle levels of belief as well in there. So what I say is, once that identification happens, that's it. You're mostly lost, or you've forgotten your essential nature. As you said, even better, you start overlooking your essential nature of freedom. And in a very short amount of time, you've completely forgotten, and you're completely fallen asleep in the dream of self. And that's all it is. You, free, have always been you and free, but you've fallen asleep into the dream of self. That's all that's happened. No big deal. And it happens for everyone. And then maybe for some people at some point, something happens. Could be anything, could be tragedy, it could be spiritual experience, it could be some suffering, it could be hearing some words. Something maybe creates a small crack of light, where all of a sudden there's the idea, well, maybe this isn't quite true, what I've heard. Maybe there's something else, or maybe some big experience happens, like in your case, where you get to see something, or experience or know something. And then from that moment on, you're no longer completely fooled by this belief or dream itself. And in that case, that's when usually the spiritual path starts. People get on the path, they start reading books and going on retreats and meditating to try to discover that essential being that they've heard about or maybe experienced. And so then the belief comes that you're going to attain something in the future, you're going to attain enlightenment, you're going to attain liberation. But what unbeknownst to you at the time of this seeking is that it's already the case now. It's always been the case. You've never left home. You have only gone to sleep first in the mundane world, and then you go to sleep in the spiritual seeking world, which is just as alluring and just as illusory. Until maybe some message comes in and someone really cracks your head open a little bit, and then you get a crack of light, and then a real crack, and then you come to see something different. I am not what I thought I was. I am already free. And that's what I call blown wide open. I say it in many different ways. That's just one way I speak about it, you know. So really all it is a case of mistaken identity. Nothing has been lost. Nothing's ever been lost. You've always been who you are. You just have to come to see again what's true now, always.
Okay, so that's exciting. But what if you haven't had any experiences of any kind, and you're just living your normal life, and you have no idea how to know yourself, just as that knowing that you speak about, and that we are. Some also call
for
it
most people. I'm sorry, Susan. I thought you were finished.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. I was just like the knowing. Some people also call it awareness, or your divine self, or yeah, true nature source, whatever it's called. Like if you have no idea what that is, how do you kind of blow wide open? Like how can you go about it?
Well, if you're going about it, then you have some idea. For everyone that comes on the path to freedom, something happens. Somehow a message gets in there. It can be through suffering, or through an experience, or just reading a book, or hearing some words. Something happens where they hear something. Now, but let's face it, 99.9% of the human beings never hear a message of freedom. They just live their life as a contracted person. That's fine, nothing wrong. But very few people, it seems like a lot, because in the world that you're in and me, we probably know a lot of spiritual seekers, so it seems like a lot, but it's actually a small amount. For something happens, either a book is given to you, or someone says something to you, or some crack of light happens, or something makes you question, or just maybe some natural intuition arises. But something happens where your mind gets turned to a question. Oh, what is truth, or what is freedom? Whatever that question might be. For me, the question was, what is this? What is liberation? The question compelled me for the whole 7 or 8 years of my path. What is liberation? So something happens in a life that turns the mind to the question of what is freedom. And from there, then just things happen on their own. You read a book, or you hear somebody teaching, you hear this, a retreat, or you hear a meditation, or you hear this or that, and then one thing happens after another. It happens spontaneously. But yes, unless out of the blue, like someone like Ramana Maharshi, who wasn't thinking anything when he was 16, it just happened, like an amazing shift for him. And that happens occasionally, but mostly it doesn't happen that way by far. Mostly somehow a crack of light has to get in there, where your attention is turned towards the path of seeking for freedom somehow, one way or another.
Okay. So the knowing, let's say, okay, I am the knowing right here, right now. In your book, you point a lot to past and future, and say, okay, that's not who you are, because you can't find it anywhere, right? Where is the past? Where is the future? It's gone. It's just not here. And what is actually here? In a way, it's like, oh yeah, what's here? There's just this and my surroundings. That's it right now. So in a way, that's easy to kind of, yeah, I can see that. It's a proof, because I really can't find anything else, and I just know I'm here right now. So in a way, it's very easy. So why is it so many people don't just say, okay, I'm here right now, this is all there is? There's something that keeps us pulled, or something keeps us trapped in the story. I guess it's a story, right? That we keep building on this character that has a past going into the future, and we can't get out of it, because maybe the thoughts are pulling us, or feelings. I think emotions also are very strong in us, and it feels like we're really here in the world, like an independent person, and I am truly here as this body mind. Can you speak to that?
Yes, first of all, what you're saying is true. It's the most simple thing in the world because it's who you are. What could be more simple than coming to know who you are? Because it's you. So yes, it is the simplest thing possible, but it's not at all remotely trivial because you have a lifetime of samskaras and what are called samskaras, were mental impressions, and what are called vasanas, which are your tendencies and desires. That's a lifetime, not only of your own lifetime, but all of cultural humanity is actually in your particular brain. So even though you recognize quickly, it's simply the simplicity of who you are, the compelling nature of the samskaras and the vasanas are not easy. They're not easy. They keep compelling. They keep pulling you towards this contracted state of self. And so even though people can recognize and have a spiritual experience where they recognize whatever you want to call it, awareness or oneness or freedom, it's rarely, if ever, enough. It's usually the very beginning. Although what's revealed, and even in my work, what's revealed right away is the end. I reveal from the beginning the end. And it can occasionally be the end, but for most people, it's the beginning of the end, because you recognize the beginning of the end, and then you have to start recognizing the falseness of the vasanas and the samskaras that are appearing. And so how does one deal with that? First of all, recognizing very clearly what's true and recognizing very clearly what's not true, what the samskaras and vasanas are, and then to become more and more devoted as a bhakta, a true devotee of truth, not of a guru or of a god or a deity, but of truth, of your own essential nature. And the more you are devoted to your own essential nature of truth, the more you start living freedom, as I say. You live freedom more and more, and it becomes more and more doubtless, until it is doubtless. It's doubtless. It's who you are. It doesn't mean the mind then stops. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Thoughts can still come and go, and sometimes something still can draw your attention and seem compelling. But if you are devoted to truth, you become doubtless in your freedom, and then no longer do those things have any power to really affect your peace, your happiness, your freedom, that kind of thing.
And I hear you mention samskaras and vasanas. What exactly is that for people who don't really know what that means?
What I said briefly, but I'll say it again. Samskara is every single impression. The impressions, they're called mental impressions. When you came out of the womb, there were no samskaras in your mind yet, nothing. And then, hi, you're my baby, that's an impression. Your name is Sal, that's an impression. Every thought, every experience, everything that has been impressed in this mind or recorded in this mind throughout the course of your lifetime is a samskara. It's just data, basically. It's the data of your mind. Your beliefs, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, these are all samskaras. Vasanas are the tendencies that you have, preferences, likes, dislikes, fears, desires, things that compel you. Your vasanas, your tendencies, some of which keep you, well, in Vedanta, there are two types of vasanas. Some are vasanas that cause bondage, and there's some vasanas that don't cause bondage. Like I happen to like pizza or something. That's a vasana. I like pizza, whatever, for example, or I like rock music or something. That's a vasana, but that doesn't cause suffering. So that kind of vasana is fine. But the ones that cause suffering based on past impressions and things, those kind of vasanas are the things that draw you back into so-called bondage and keep you from your essential being of peace. They keep you from peace and freedom and happiness. And those vasanas can be more and more because of your devotion to truth, seen through, resolved, and finally ended. So, and that's the way, the means of ending suffering is by releasing your so-called vasanas that cause bondage.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah. So for example, any thought, any emotion, any perception, anything that arises in my knowing or my awareness of me and the world is that's not really me. Like it's just me. Like there is no me, I guess, but it's just the knowing of all that. But I'm also that, right? So that's why it's not like there's nothing wrong with having thoughts about having a pizza, or that's perfectly fine, because that's just what's kind of manifesting in this knowing, and whatever manifests is just fine, I guess.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with anything. Everything's completely fine. I have no problem with anything. So, and that's actually freedom, when you really have no problem with what's appearing. I say it's the end of the arguer, because mostly we're arguing in the realm of form, in the realm of the mundane. We want more and more and more and more. We don't have enough. We're dissatisfied. We don't feel whole. We don't feel complete. We get greedy. We blah 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 blah. And then we're arguing in the realm of the spirit. I'm not enlightened enough. I have to get rid of these. Even get rid of these vasanas is arguing with what is. So freedom means the end of the arguer. Whatever is. So yes, what you're saying is also true. Who I am, essential nature, like let's say the ocean, am appearing as in this moment right now, as Sal is appearing in this moment. However Sal is appearing in this moment. It can be a thought. It can be a desire for pizza. It could be right now these words coming out of this mouth. So I, as my essential nature of freedom, no thing, I'm appearing now as something, Sal. Just like ocean is no thing appearing now as a wave. But yes, that wave is not separate from ocean. That wave is ocean. Wave, when you're looking at a wave, what are you seeing? You're seeing ocean. So what you're saying is true. Anything that's appearing now is you in appearance. But that you in appearance is fleeting, it's ephemeral, it's not essential to you. It's not the eternal you. It's the appearance of you that's coming and going. Mostly we believe that we are only the appearance of who we are, and that appearance, who we are, has a long-lasting, substantial life. Like there is an actual Salvador. There isn't an actual Salvador. There's only the appearance of Salvador right this moment, but it's in constant change, like a wave is in constant change. So there's no denying what's appearing. I don't deny what's appearing, but the only thing that's true is what's appearing now. Whatever appeared in the past or might appear in the future is not true at all. And that's where all of our suffering is, based on past and the future. So when you're done arguing with what is appearing now, you're just who you are. Ocean appearing as this wave now. It's a free flow of movement of life. That's all it is. Which does not deny anything exactly. Nothing is denied.
Okay, so in a way you're saying that we are just with what is as it arises, and whatever arises is who you are. You're the knower of that, and there's nothing else to find, or there's nothing other to look for. It's just the knowing of everything, and you may like it, you may not like it, but it's whatever it is, you just the knower of it. Is it?
Well, yes. You're the knower. You're also the appearance of it, but you're both the knowing and the appearance. So there's no separation between the knowing of this moment and this moment itself. First of all, be clear, there's only this moment. There is no past or future. But in this moment, there's no separation between the knowing of this moment and this moment itself. This moment itself is the knowing of itself. There's no two. This is, if you want to use the word non-duality, there's no two. There's only the knowing and the appearance are one. And something else that you said. What else did you say? I just lost my place there.
Well, just that you're the knowing of it, and that's it. You're just. But I like what you said about there is not two, because that it can quickly become like I'm the knower of it, so that's out there, and I'm the knower of it, and or the witness, and that does
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And so there is not a separation. There is not a knower and a known. That's the whole delusion, the illusion of separation, the knower and the known. There's only what is. So liberation can be summed up. What is, which means the knowing and the known are one. I am, and I know that I am. This moment is known by itself, to itself. This is something that people can intellectualize. It's not helpful. When I work with people on an intensive, I want them to see it for themselves directly. So what happens in my work and what happens in what I say is in freedom is that whatever is appearing in this moment cannot be any different than it is. It's not possible. This moment can only be this word coming out, can only be this word. This movement can only be this movement. This thought can only be this thought. What happens is an interloper gets in there, called what I call the arguer, or the self or ego, that argues with what is and says something can be different or should be different, or I have to fix something or correct something. That ego, that arguer, can go. When that arguer goes, then there's no longer any interloper in the flow of life. There's only what's appearing, knowing itself as Sal in this moment or whatever. You see what I mean? So freedom means there's no longer an arguer here arguing with what is. So seeking is arguing with what is. Seeking enlightenment in the future is arguing with what is. Because only what is now. So the only thing that needs to happen is that arguer needs to end. That's all. Once the argument ends, then the arguer is gone, and there's only this moment knowing itself. That's all there is. It's no thing appearing as something now.
And that's freedom, because you're free, and it feels free. Does it feel kind of joyful and blissful? Like you always hear about these gurus that are joyful and blissful. Is that why they are that? Because they're just kind of in the flow with life, and they're not even a person anymore, really. They're just life happening, maybe?
Well, joyful and blissful people mistake, because immediately because we desire to feel good all the time, we immediately equate joy and bliss just with the feeling joyful and blissful, feeling I feel so joyful and blissful. And then we overlook the true joy and bliss. Yes, that's an aspect of it. The true joy and bliss really is that there's no arguing with anything, the peace that passes understanding. It doesn't necessarily mean you're walking around in joy and bliss, although that can happen to the body-mind organism. But the peace is beyond the joy and bliss, actually. It's just no longer arguing with what is. There's no one here. Whatever is, whatever comes, whatever goes, goes. The end of that arguing is there. And that is the real peace, you see. And yes, of course, in some moments you can feel blissful and peaceful, but in some moments also you can have a toothache, or a bus can run over your foot, and then maybe you don't feel so blissful and joyful in that moment. You see, or maybe something happens where anger appears here in the body-mind organism. What's wrong with that? And then maybe you don't feel joyful or blissful. And then someone from the outside who believes that the guru is always in bliss will look at that person and say, that person got angry. That means they're not enlightened. Where's the bliss? Where's the joy? Well, that's because you have the mistaken idea that, not you, but we have the mistaken idea that joy and bliss is only the experience of joy and bliss. But the true bliss, the true peace is beyond all of that. Whatever appears, appears. It could be a moment of anger, or it could be a moment of happiness. It could be whatever is appearing. There's no argument anymore. What is, that's peace.
And that actually also sounds like in a way, you're fully human, because you can be love, you can be anger, you can have all those different things that humans, this spectrum of emotions, because you're just with it as it arises. So you're not trying to push it away, or I can't be like this or that. Which kind of can feel very contracting, and sometimes they say you can even get a disease from blockages in your body. But in a way, if you just with life as it happens, as it is, and you just are, then I guess you just are all those emotions too.
Yeah, human emotions are, like I said, I don't judge anything. There's nothing wrong with anything. And nothing is opposed to freedom. You can be however you're appearing in this moment. So yes, there's as the human aspect of life, you know, like I said, ocean appearing as wave. This Sal or Susan or appears as however it appears, and in any moment it can appear as whatever. Even in emotions, there's nothing wrong with emotions. What's wrong with emotions? The normal state of the contracted human consciousness, however, when an emotion or an event appears or an emotion appears, becomes fixated on that emotion, and then the mind starts going and the story about that emotion goes. And if you see some people who are pathologically ill, some people get on one emotion or story and they stay there for the rest of their life suffering that emotion. You see, that's a pathology, and that's mostly the human pathology. Basically, we latch on to these emotions, and then the thoughts start going and the emotion gets going, and it just lasts forever. Well, in what I consider a free state of humanity, any emotion can come and go, but it comes and goes like a wave comes and goes. It comes and then it's gone. Mm-hmm. So if an emotion comes, like if I'm driving on my motorcycle here in India and a big bus comes and almost runs me off the street, is it emotion? I may get pissed off and you say, hey, you asshole, to the bus. But see, that's gone like that in a moment. But should I just be like a statue of the Buddha if something like that happens and no movement at all, just a statue of the Buddha? Well, that's maybe, but that's maybe not, and most likely not, because something happens in the force of life, in the force of the ocean. A wind comes or a tidal or the moon, and the ocean is brought to some life, and it can be the life of yelling at the bus driver for running off the road or whatever it can be. It can be the life of being touched by a beautiful child, you feel love, or your partner, you feel love. Any movement can elicit these emotions. It's when I, who I am, latch on to that and just continue to focus on that and let it build into this pathology. That's what suffering is. A moment of love or a moment of anger is not suffering. It's just a moment of some energy. That's all it is. So yes, there's nothing wrong with anything in the human realm.
Okay. So in a way, that's also, it feels very nice that you can just kind of be who you are, and it's fine. Because
first of all, you have no choice. There's no alternative but to be who you are. If you look just right now in this moment here, you know, I'm talking a lot now, but usually I don't talk about stuff like this. I usually show people, but that's more of an inquiry circumstance. We're just talking right now. But if you just look right here and now, and if you're honest, this moment this moment can only be as it is right now. There's nothing behind the curtain. This moment can only be as it is. These hands just went together. These words are just coming out of this mouth. That's all that can, that's the only possibility. There is no other possibility. When you really reconciled with that what is, then who's to argue or judge anything that's appearing? There's no controller of what, and there's no controller of this moment either. I'm not controlling anything. These words are coming out. And I say this often to people that they can believe me or not. I'm hearing these words at the same time you're hearing them. I have no idea the next word. So there's no controller of this moment. And if there's no controller of this moment, what's to argue? It can only be as it is. Then and when that full reconciliation is there, then that's the peace that passes understanding. There's only this, there's only this, there's only this, that's it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, in that case, everything is appearing as fine. Who's to argue? Even so-called things we judge as negative, who's to judge? No one created them. You can't. That's just what it is. You see.
Yeah. So I know you used to be a seeker, a spiritual seeker for so many years, and you just got desperate. and because you didn't find enlightenment, and I think in 2004 you then finally, okay, that's it. Or you met a teacher, and then you kind of got the right pointer, so you realized, oh, I'm already it. I can never find enlightenment. This is it. I am it, and it's here and now. So for you, after you realized that in 2004 until now, has your life changed? Is it very different, or do you feel very different? And like how has your life been since then?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't even remember, but yeah, before, of course, before it wasn't a secret that long, 7 or 8 years. I work with people who have been seeking for 40 years or more, you know. But anyway, before that, I was a seeker in the world, in music and in drugs and all that stuff, and so that was a very, in a way, desperate way of life. You know, there was always seeking, striving to attain, to achieve, to be something special, to have a heightened experience of life in drugs and music and all that stuff. So that, you know, that's suffering. And then I got on the spiritual path, and I was having a lot of mystical experiences. And I had many experiences, so-called experiences on the path, spiritual. And I went everywhere in the world. I lived with the gurus and teachers and meditated thousands and thousands of hours. And so I was seeking. And so that was also seeking to be special and to attain and achieve something. And so that's also suffering, you know, even though there were some magnificent moments. But then when that ended, there was no more suffering. And I just got back into making music after that. But with no seeking at all, only just 100% for the pleasure of it. And just living a very ordinary life. Very ordinary. Being in India, going to Goa, going to Thailand, making music with no goal and everything. So now in my life, there's no goal. I'm not seeking anything at all. There's peace. Things come. Sometimes I go through 6 months where I'm making music every day, all day, with full energy and full commitment. And then it ends, and there's no longer any interest and no problem at all. And then an idea comes, let's do an intensive for a couple of months. So I get into that. I put in all the time and so-called effort to do that. And that comes, and then that's gone. And everything's coming and going in my life. There's no holding on here any longer. I don't do anything to try to become something special or achieve anything. There's basically peace. I can just sit here and do nothing forever and be perfectly content. So that's a big difference for me. Yeah, just basic contentment, you know, peace.
So it's peace, like that's who you really are. That peace, that knowing, and is that the whole self too? Like, is that the complete, like you don't seek anymore, so you don't feel like a lack? Like, do you feel that completeness to you, just being with life?
Yes or no. I know instead of feeling or knowing, the idea that I'm not complete and whole is gone. So what's then left? To say, do I feel whole and complete? Feeling, I try not to use the word feeling to describe what I'm sharing. It's more knowing. I know. Mm-hmm. And to be more accurate, the idea that I'm not fulfilled or that I'm lacking something, the idea that I'm lacking something doesn't appear anymore. There used to be the idea I was lacking fame and success and money and heightened experiences of living, and then I was lacking enlightenment, liberation, and freedom, and lacking. But that's gone. You see, that doesn't appear anymore. The sense of lack or the sense of incomplete. So if you want to say, do I feel complete? No, okay, you could say. I just say more, it's knowing. I know there's nothing more. There's only this moment. Whatever is appearing is fine. Yeah. And in that, yes, I'm whole and complete, you could say, you know.
Yeah, and it's you're whole because you're not your small body mind self in a whirl, I guess, right? You don't see yourself like that.
I'm that too, you know. I'm that too. I'm not just the ocean, I'm also the wave appearing as Sal. But I'm only as appearing as Sal is appearing right now in this moment. There is no Sal. There's no long-standing Salvadore, past, history, future. I never think of the past, rarely. If a thought comes, there's no interest in it. I don't think of the future, rarely, except some practical considerations, got to book a ticket or something like that. So there is, yes, there's the person appearing as Sal. I'm not going to say I'm not just some blob of enlightened space or something like that. I am my essential being, nothing appearing as whatever Sal is appearing as in this moment. So yes, the human aspect is very alive. Yes.
So you're Sal, and you're the mountains, and you're the forest, and you're the ocean, you're the
yeah,
the
but I don't
house,
see myself
the,
as the mountain and the forest. Yeah, but I don't look at the mountain and think feel like I'm the mountain or something like that. That kind of experience can happen, but that's not what it means necessarily. It just means knowing is ubiquitous. Knowing includes everything. Nothing is unincluded from knowing, you know. But I don't feel like I'm the mountain or the tree or something like that. I feel this body. That's what I feel. I feel this body, you see. I don't feel your body and I don't feel the tree. I feel this body. Because the I am speaking of now is the consciousness that's in this body, you see. Prior to that is the knowing that knows everything. Appearing as the consciousness that knows this body. It's impossible to put that in words.
yeah, but it's good to have the body, right? Because without the body mind to experience the world in, there's no world. I guess it comes together, right?
There's no world even when you go to sleep at night. In deep sleep, the world is finished. There is no world. It's not waiting for you. The world isn't waiting for you when you wake up. There is no world. When you wake up, the world again appears, because the world is your consciousness is the world. There's no separation between you and the world. When you go to sleep, the world is finished. It's not waiting for you. It's finished. There isn't a world. And when you wake up, the world wakes up as one thing. This is something I try to speak with people about, and on the intensive, they can start to get that a little bit. You have your own proof of that. When you go to sleep, there's no body, there's no self, there's no world, there's nothing. It's not hiding somewhere. It's gone. It never existed. And it only appears again when you wake up when consciousness comes awake in the morning. Consciousness, I am the world is. It's one movement. Consciousness, I am the world is. And then when consciousness sleeps, it's finished. Over.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of wild, but
It's actually your own experience every day of your life.
yeah. And then when we dream, what's that then? There's like deep sleep where we are out, right? And then we wake up and there's this whole world and 3 dimensions and sounds and everything. And then
dream is also consciousness. In deep sleep, there's no consciousness. Consciousness becomes dormant in deep sleep. Okay, there's still you. You do exist as essential being of knowing, because if I call your name, you'll wake up. That means what happens is I call your name and then consciousness alivens. All of a sudden, consciousness wakes up. In deep sleep, consciousness is not awake. Consciousness is dormant. And then consciousness, in deep sleep, consciousness wakes up and then maybe goes into the dream state, consciousness with the dream state, or consciousness then wakes up to the waking state. But that's all consciousness. You see what I mean? Yeah. And the dream state and the waking state are basically the same. They include consciousness. In deep sleep, there's no consciousness. There's only essential knowing, which is not conscious of itself.
Okay, so consciousness and knowing, what was the difference? So there's always the knowing, and then consciousness is kind of the human part where the human can perceive the world.
That's the way I say it. These words, the words are, but that essentially, yes, consciousness is you can say linked to the body, mind organism. But prior to consciousness is who you are, essentially, and that is why when you're in deep sleep and there's no consciousness as in deep sleep, why would you wake up when the alarm goes off? Because you are still existent. You are still existent, but not consciously, not as any ego or body, mind, or world even. But you do exist. So, but the consciousness has to do with this body, which is why this consciousness, Sal, can't know the consciousness, Susan's body. You see what I mean? Because that is particular to a body.
Yeah.
People use these words in different ways. So someone can debate this word consciousness and say all you are is consciousness, or all you are is awareness, or these words are all debatable. So you have to take them with a grain of salt. It doesn't matter what the words that I'm using are actually, you know. In your own experience, in deep sleep, there's no world. There's no you and there's no world in deep sleep. And you know that because when you wake up, the world appears out of nothing. All of a sudden it's here. And when you go to sleep, it's gone, including you. That's your own experience. Now, we can use any words you want to describe all of that. Doesn't really matter.
And then when you dream, you know, when you have that dream state before you go into deep sleep, what is that dream state? That's still consciousness. That's
consciousness. That's consciousness. Yes.
Mm.
That's called it's called the subtle body. I think they call it the subtle body. So you know, the waking state, and then the subtle body is the mind only. The dreams. The gross body is the senses, the five senses and thoughts and all that. The subtle body is the mind, the more subtle mind of dreams and fantasy and all of that kind of stuff. So in deep sleep, the gross world of senses are gone. And right, the five senses, those aren't active in the dream state, but in the dream state, the subtle body or the mind is still active. And that's where the fantasy of dreams happens in that. Even though the actual senses are not operational. And then the causal body is in deep sleep, where there's nothing there. There's only the essential nature, which is the cause of everything, which triggers the other bodies. This is, anyway, we're getting...
Yeah, I know, but it's so interesting. It's just like, wow, it's really interesting.
I'm not a philosopher. It's hard for me to talk about those things because that's not really what I do so much, but that's essentially what's happening there.
Yeah. Well, it's very helpful actually, because I think a lot of us are a little confused about that. But but it's the knowing of all the states. You know, it's just the knowing that's who you truly are, right?
Yes, exactly. You do know the deep sleep state, even if you don't remember it, and even if you're not conscious of it. And you know it because if I call your name and you'll wake up. So obviously you know it, don't you? And that's who you are, essentially, that knowing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, wow. It's great. I really, I'm going to ponder about all this. But, okay. And actually, I want to say, this book, I just love it so much because the things we've talked about right now, and it's just very straight to the point, and in small little sentences or a few words, and I just love that, and you can just read a chapter and then ponder on that for a little bit, and it's really lovely. It's like it goes really to one's heart, or it cannot make you, you know, kind of go, okay, this is really just who I am, and it's so simple, and it feels so true. And so I really love this book very much. And then your website, Liberation, is also a great website where you have some online calls, Zoom calls every other week, and you also have some online intensive. Yeah. And you have in India, you have in-person online intensives, in-person intensives, and then you have online intensives for people around the world, right?
Yeah. Well, I just did 2 online intensives. They're 2 months long. I did them recently because I was planning to do them here in India, but of course now with the COVID, we can't do that. So I did them online, and I'll be doing another couple of online 2-month intensives in February, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I think this is airing in January. What we're speaking about now.
Yeah.
They-
Yeah.
So then if
Yeah,
someone's interested, they can
sorry,
still go to
that's
my website and check it out, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, so as far as the book goes, my intention with the book was that you recognize freedom as you're reading each line. In the reading of it, you recognize freedom here and now. In the reading of it itself, nothing to attain, nothing to get in the future. So that's the whole purpose of my work in general as well. You recognize freedom as you're reading or as we're working together. You're being free. That's how I work. That's with the book and the intensives and everything as well.
Yeah. Okay. And then the Zoom calls, people can just go and register on your website. Is that how it works?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, they're every 2 weeks on Sundays. And yeah, you can check it out on my website, liberationist.com. And I always suggest people to join on my mailing list just because I remind people of open meetings or intensives or something like that. I don't send out a lot of stuff, just reminders about when something's coming, you know. Okay. So if they join the mailing list, they can get reminded.
Yeah, great. Oh, well, thank you so much. It is just wonderful. And I'm so glad that you are attending and that people can listen to you and can also look at your website and get in touch with you. And so thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be with you. And we met on my Zoom meeting a couple of weeks ago. It's nice to see you now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Okay, Susan.
Thank you.
Great.
Take care.